Imagine this. It's 3 in the morning, dead quiet, and
Um,
John M. is wide awake.
What's happening?
He's rubbing the air where his left ankle used to be, trying to soothe this awful searing pain.
Ah, the pain in the missing limb.
Exactly. The limb is gone, but that sensation, it's incredibly real, relentless. Our source material calls it a pain that, well, has nowhere to live.
It really does sound like something out of science fiction, doesn't it? But it's a profound neurological paradox, and that's what we're diving into today.
Phantom limb pain.
Phantom limb pain, or as John M. apparently calls it, the ghost that won't quit. And, for far too long, this was kind of brushed aside, treated as maybe an emotional reaction or...
All in the head.
Precisely. But the science is clear now. This isn't some vague mystery. It's a neurological reality, a really stark illustration of how the brain just refuses to forget.
That refusal.
Yeah.
That seems key. So we're digging into the brain's sensory map today.
We are. Looking at what happens when the brain's wiring system, its map, just can't quite process a major physical change like losing a limb. And maybe more importantly, the really quite astonishing treatments that are starting to emerge.
But how do you fix a pain in something that isn't there?
That's the challenge. But the core idea, the thing you really need to grasp, is that the pain feels real because the brain still has that dedicated spot, that hardwired location for the missing part.
So when that brain area gets activated,
You feel the pain or the itch or pressure, even though the physical source, the limb itself, is gone.
okay, let's unpack this. So phantom pain sounds like one thing, but the actual feelings people report, they're really varied and honestly pretty intense.
But we're far from just a dull ache. It's this powerful, often inescapable illusion of feeling. And the descriptions people give are vivid, intense burning like John M.'s ankle,
Stabbing pains too.
stabbing sharp pains, sometimes like electric shocks running down the missing limb or waves of cramping, localized perfectly in fingers or toes that, haven't been there for years sometimes.
And it's critical, we underlined that point you made earlier. This isn't some kind of psychological reaction to the trauma of loss.
Absolutely not. It's strictly neurological. It's the central nervous system, essentially misfiring or getting its signals crossed.
Which must feel incredibly isolating if you don't understand what's happening.
Totally. And that's why sharing the prevalence is so important. If you listening now or someone you know is going through this, please know you are not alone, not even close.
What are the numbers like?
Well, up to 80%, 80 of amputees experience some form of phantom pain. That's millions of people dealing with this persistent neurological echo.
80%.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's not always painful, right? The ghost can just be there.
Exactly. Even if people don't have outright pain, the sources say over 90% feel some kind of non-painful phantom sensation.
Like what?
Things like pressure, a feeling of movement, tingling, sometimes itching,
Yeah.
all in the missing limb.
It really hammers home how stubborn that brain map is.
It's incredibly sticky, and knowing these stats, knowing it's a known neurological phenomenon, helps people avoid that awful feeling of isolation thinking, it's all in my head. That was unfortunately the common view decades ago.
Right.
We now get that the brain is just, it's processing, sometimes taking its own sweet time, sometimes maybe never fully updating to the new physical reality.
And the timing can be weird too, can it? It doesn't always start right after the amputation.
No, it's erratic. It might show up days later or months or sometimes even years after the surgery. The nervous system might seem fine, and then suddenly, bam, that old sensory pathway lights up again.
Okay, so we know what it is. Let's get into the why.
Right. What's fascinating here is scientists have moved beyond just describing it. They're starting to understand the mechanisms, why the ghost hurts, and it's usually not just one single thing.
A combination.
Yeah, like a perfect storm of neural confusion. It's happening both out at the edge, at the stump.
The periphery.
Right, the periphery, and also centrally in the brain and the spinal cord, all at once.
Okay, let's break down that storm. Starting at the site of the injury, the stump itself. What's going on with those nerve endings?
So that's the peripheral piece of the puzzle. When a limb is amputated, obviously, nerves are cut. These cut nerve endings, they try to heal, try to regenerate, but often they can't reconnect properly.
So they just end.
They often form these tangled, messy bundles. They're called neuromas. Think of them like little knots of hypersensitive nerve tissue right at the end of the stump.
And these neuromas cause trouble.
Big trouble. They become sort of spontaneously active, sending out erratic, jumbled signals up towards the spinal cord and brain. Basically static. Painful static often, even when nothing is touching the stump.
Okay, so junk signals are coming from the stump,
Yeah.
but then the brain has to interpret that noise.
Exactly. And that brings us to the central problem, this thing called cortical reorganization, basically brain rewiring.
Wait, rewiring. Does that mean, okay, say you lost a hand. Does the brain area for, like, your face start to take over the old hand territory? Is that why people sometimes feel their phantom hand when they touch their cheek?
You absolutely hit the nail on the head. That's the leading theory. The brain hates empty space, especially valuable neural real estate. It wants efficiency.
So it's like a neurological land grab.
Kind of. Neighboring regions in the brain's sensory map, often the face area invading the hand area, or maybe the trunk area invading a leg area, they literally grow into the territory that used to represent the missing limb in the somatosensory cortex.
Okay, so if I touch my face, the signal goes to the face area, but that area has now sort of bled into the old hand zone.
And the brain gets confused. It receives that signal in the face plus invaded hand zone and misinterprets it. It thinks, oh, that touch must be coming from the phantom hand, or it might just register as pain in the phantom hand.
That's the confusion between sensation and pain you mentioned.
Precisely. The input from the adjacent invading area gets misinterpreted as coming from the missing limb. The brain refuses to just delete what it knew so well. It reassigns the space, but that reassignment can cause these errors, these painful glitches.
Wow, okay. Peripheral static, central invasion, and then the spinal cord jumps in.
Yeah, as if that wasn't enough. The spinal cord itself can become hypersensitive in this process. It's called central sensitization.
Meaning?
It means the pain gates in the spinal cord basically get stuck open. The threshold for transmitting pain signals gets lowered. One source described it like a faulty speaker turned up way too high.
Amplifying everything.
Exactly. Even minor signals coming up from the stump neuromas, or maybe even non-painful signals from that reorganized brain area, get amplified into screaming pain messages before they even reach the brain's main processing center.
Okay, so it's this toxic mix. Noisy stump nerves, confused brain map, and a spinal cord shouting about it. That's what keeps the pain going.
That's the current understanding, yes.
Right.
And then you layer on top of that the external factors.
Right, things that can make the ghost stir, as you said.
Absolutely, because the nervous system is all connected, right?
Yeah.
So things like being under a lot of stress, being really fatigued, high anxiety levels,
Yeah.
even bizarrely changes in the weather, like barometric pressure shifts.
Can make the phantom pain worse.
They can exacerbate it. They don't cause the underlying neurological issue, but they seem to increase the overall reactivity of the nervous system, potentially turning up that spinal cord amplifier even higher.
And when you hear people describe it, it really brings home the reality. It's not vague. They talk about, like, the feeling of a tightly clenched fist that isn't there.
Yes, or intense cramps in toes that are long gone, or those electric jolts shooting through thin air. It's incredibly specific.
Which I guess is a clue for how to treat it, because the brain's map is specific even if the limb isn't.
Exactly. That specificity is actually helpful. But the challenge remains. How do you medicate or operate on a pain whose perceived source is functionally gone?
Which leads us to some really amazing, almost counterintuitive therapies. If the problem is rooted in the brain's memory and this visual sensory mix-up,
And the solutions have to target the brain directly. They focus on essentially retraining the brain, persuading it to update its map to accept the new reality.
teaching the brain, basically.
In a way, yes. And this is where perception itself can become a form of medicine. The classic example, revolutionary but incredibly simple, is mirror therapy, discovered back in the 90s.
The mirror box. I've read about this. It sounds almost too simple to work.
It does, doesn't it? You just place a standard mirror vertically beside the person's intact limb, position it carefully so the reflection looks like the missing limb is there.
Creating the illusion of two healthy limbs.
Exactly. And that visual feedback is the therapy. Let's say someone has that agonizing phantom clenched fist. They put their good hand, their intact hand, into the box next to the mirror.
And they look in the mirror.
And they consciously, deliberately open and close their good hand while watching the reflection. What the brain sees is the missing hand opening and closing normally.
Ah, so the visual input overrides the faulty sensory signals.
It seems to.
Yeah.
That strong visual confirmation tricks the brain. It sees the phantom limb being released from that painful, cramped position. And quite often, that visual illusion can calm the neural storm, sometimes almost instantly providing significant relief.
That's incredible just by seeing it.
It highlights how powerful visual input is for the brain's body map.
And now modern therapies are taking that basic idea, that perceptual trick, and building on it, right? Making it more like a cognitive workout.
Yes, they realize that just the mirror might not be enough, or that the brain needs a more structured retraining. So you see therapies like graded motor imagery or GMI.
Graded, meaning step by step.
Exactly. It's a very methodical mental discipline. It usually progresses in stages. Interestingly, it often starts before the mirror. Stage 1 might just be looking at pictures of hands or feet and identifying them as left or right.
Why start with just pictures? Seems basic.
Because even that simple task activates specific motor planning and body awareness areas in the cortex, but without needing actual movement or triggering pain. It's like gently waking up and preparing the relevant brain map.
Okay, prep work. Then what?
Then they move to imagined movements. Mentally rehearsing opening and closing the phantom hand or wiggling phantom toes without actually moving the intact limb yet. Still no mirror.
Building up the mental connection.
Right. And only then, as the final stage, do they introduce the mirror box to get that powerful visual confirmation we talked about. It's a very carefully sequenced assault on the brain's confused wiring.
And taking that even further, there's virtual reality.
VR therapy, yes. It's the same core principle visual feedback to retrain the brain, but much more immersive. Instead of a simple mirror reflection, the patient puts on a headset
And sees a digital version of their missing limb.
Exactly, a fully rendered, interactive digital limb. They can learn to control it, move it around in the virtual space. It provides incredibly rich, high-definition feedback to the brain. It's like giving the ghost a digital body to exercise in, helping to rewire those faulty connections through sophisticated visuals.
Wow. But alongside these sort of high-tech perceptual tricks, the traditional stuff still matters hugely, doesn't it? Physical therapy?
Oh, indispensable. Physical therapy is crucial. Things like specific stretches, massage techniques, and careful prosthetic training. They all aim to desensitize the stump itself, calm down those problematic neuromas we discussed earlier, addressing the peripheral part of the problem directly.
And medication must play a role, too.
Of course. Since we know it's fundamentally a nerve issue misfiring nerves, amplified signals doctors often use medications specifically designed to calm nerve activity.
Like what sort of drugs?
You often see things like gabapentin, pregabalin, or certain types of antidepressants like amitriptyline, which also have nerve calming effects. They're trying to turn down the volume of that excessive electrical firing.
And for really tough cases.
For the most severe, intractable pain, sometimes more invasive procedures are considered. Things like targeted nerve blocks to temporarily numb the nerves in the stump, or even spinal cord stimulation, where they implant a device to try and electronically modulate those pain signals in the spinal cord, trying to physically adjust that amplifier.
It's a multi-pronged attack. then.
Okay.
Okay, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's clearly not just about neurons firing.
Yeah.
There's a huge emotional aspect to this.
Oh, absolutely. You can't separate them. Our sources really emphasize this. Patients dealing with phantom pain often face intense disbelief, not just from others, but sometimes even doubting themselves. And that leads to profound isolation. Imagine trying to explain a severe pain in a part of you that isn't there.
It must be incredibly difficult.
Exactly, which is why the modern approach to rehabilitation has to recognize this. Good programs treat the whole person, not just the nerve pathways.
So a team effort.
Definitely. You need physical therapists, neurologists, pain specialists, psychologists or counselors, prosthetists, all working together, communicating, providing holistic care. The psychological support, the validation, is arguably just as critical as the mirror box or the medication.
And sometimes, maybe the most powerful therapy is just hearing a doctor or therapist say, sincerely,
I believe you. Your pain is real. Yes, those simple words can be incredibly healing,
that empathy itself reduces the stress and anxiety.
which, as we discussed, can directly feed into the phantom pain cycle. It calms the whole system down.
Looking ahead, what's on the horizon? The technology seems to be moving fast.
It really is. There's exciting work being done on AI-guided prosthetics. These aren't just about movement. Some are being designed to actually restore a sense of touch.
Really, sending touch signals back.
Yes, feeding accurate, non-painful sensory information back to the brain via the nerves in the stump. The idea is to give the brain the kind of normal input it's craving, potentially overriding the pain signals.
And even more futuristic.
Brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs. These are systems aiming to directly link the brain's intentions to external devices or even stimulate the brain to recreate sensation. They could potentially create a bypass around the damaged pathways, reestablishing cleaner communication.
Alongside the high tech, are other approaches being used, like mindfulness?
Yes, absolutely. We're seeing more integration of holistic practices, things like mindfulness meditation, biofeedback techniques to help people gain conscious control over physiological processes, even yoga.
How do they help?
They all work towards calming the overall nervous system, reducing that central sensitization, and giving the person better internal tools to manage their brain's response to the phantom signals. The ultimate goal isn't always to completely erase the phantom sensation. The memory of the limb might always be there, but to eliminate the pain associated with it.
So what does this all mean? Wrapping this up, the core takeaway from this deep dive seems to be this incredibly tight weave between mind and body.
Exactly. Phantom pain is undeniable proof. The limb is gone, but its dedicated memory, its blueprint, lives on vividly in the brain's circuitry.
But it also shows the brain's amazing plasticity.
Incredible plasticity, yes. It remembers tenaciously, but with understanding, with
Yeah.
the right therapies, with these clever perceptual tricks, that memory, or at least the painful aspect of it, can often be successfully managed. The ghost can be quieted.
So if you or someone you love is dealing with this kind of pain in a place that doesn't physically exist anymore, remember the science.
Please do. You're not broken. You are definitely not imagining it. You're human.
And your brain is just doing what it was built to do. Remember, adapt.
And, crucially, with the right kind of help and the right inputs, learn to let go of the pain even if the memory remains.
Okay, a final thought for people to chew on.
Well, think about that mirror box. Such a simple trick using visual perception to tackle really severe, complex neurological pain. It works surprisingly often, so it makes you wonder. What other common bodily sensations, maybe chronic stiffness, that nagging fatigue, even things like gut discomfort might also be influenced, maybe even significantly managed, just by changing our perception, by giving our brain different, perhaps more validating sensory information? How much does our internal story shape our physical reality?
Perception is medicine. Definitely something to mull over.